And welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest, where it got sunny since my last class, which is great. That's our changeable spring weather. Hi, Divas. Hi, Anna. Hi, Shirojidi. Nice to see some of our regular students, and good to see our members as well. Hi, Sammy. In this class, we are looking at the listening section of the IELTS exam, specifically focusing on part 1 and 2 practice and some tips today. We will be using the materials from our websites. These lessons are presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Please do visit us there. For general IELTS help, visit us at gieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we've got loads of materials for you. And for today, I'll give you a 20% discount as well. Use code R4TYJ when you check out. There'll be a place where you can click use coupon code. Put in that code and you'll save yourself 20% from the full price. Our websites, they look like this. This is the general one here with the green background. You can click that big red button to join us there. And this is our academic one here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join. If you have questions, students, you can always send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and I will answer your inquiries in due time. Again, these classes, they run from Wednesday to Saturday at 13:30 and 15 o'clock Central European time. So just check with Google to see the time zone difference, but this is according to CET, which is Central European time. All right, everyone. So we'll get right into our listening here. This listening is coming from our first exam book, and it's test number 2, which is actually the third exam after the review and test 1. And so if you have access to our premium package, of course, you'll find the audio CD 3 track number 1, because it's part 1 that we're looking at today. Now, there have been a couple of slight changes in the listening section for the IELTS from 2020. They're kind of just administrative changes for the most part. Firstly, the one important change for students is you will not see this kind of example question in part 1. They've taken out the example question. It just gets right into the audio for questions that you need to answer, so pay attention to that. And then the other kind of notation that they change, you see here, it says section 1. You're not going to see that. You're going to see part 1. And also in rare cases, they referred to page numbers. They're not going to do that anymore. So they're not going to say turn to this page or question on this page. That's another small change. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to start the listening audio here in just a moment. A couple of important points before I begin. Firstly, please, students, do not put your answers into the chat because that's confusing and unfair to some students. So make sure that you put your answers on a separate piece of paper or in a separate document, and we will go through the answers together after. Now, to play this audio, the best I can do is play it through my microphone and my Bose speaker. So if it's quiet for you, please try to use a headset or turn up the volume. Okay, volume on my end is maxed out. All right, so we'll get right into it. I'm just going to hop over to our website here, log into my student account. Once I do that, then I can open up the audio CDs section here and go to track number 3. We have lots and lots of audio, as you can see. So I'll go to CD 3 track 1, and we're going to get right into it here, students. So get ready because we're starting right now.
This recording is copyrighted by 2 Think One Solutions Inc. and World ESL Tutors. You will hear several different recordings and you will answer questions on what you hear. There will be time given to read the instructions and questions, and you will be given a chance to check your work. The recordings will be played only once. The test is made up of 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Listening Section 1. You will hear a conversation between 2 women as one of the women registers her daughter for nursery school. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, the conversation relating to this question will be played.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
The woman says she would like to register her daughter for half-day nursery school, so A has been indicated for you. Now we begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
So your daughter's name is Matilda Johnson?
Yes, let me spell it for you. The first name is Matilda, Matilda, and the last name is Johnson, but it's not the common spelling. It's spelt Jonson. My husband is Swedish, which explains the different spelling.
Right. And what is Matilda's date of birth?
She was born December 25th, 2006.
So she was born at Christmas. That is incredible.
Yes, she was an incredible present to get for Christmas. It certainly was the most memorable Christmas I've had.
Yes, I would imagine. Okay, so now I need Matilda's personal education number, which she should have received in the post recently.
I don't remember receiving such a letter in the post.
It would have come from the Department of Education, and they always post things in yellow envelopes. You don't remember seeing a yellow envelope in the post?
In fact, I do, but I didn't open it. My husband did. He didn't mention anything about a personal education number. Now he's away with work and I won't be able to reach him.
Well, we can retrieve the number. I'm going to need your national insurance number as well as your husband's. I'm going to need your husband's name as well.
My husband's name is Eric, with a K instead of a C on the end. His last name is Johnson, of course. His national insurance number is DF987745W, and mine is KL409115N.
You now have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 6 to 10.
Right. Okay, let me see here. All right. Here is a personal education number. I will give it to you now so that you can write it down for future reference. It is T56340192.
Just to make sure, the first character is T as in Thomas.
Yes, and this letter in front of the number shows what region the child is originally from. The T in this case refers to Tyne and Wear.
That would be correct, I'd imagine. Matilda was born in Newcastle, which of course is in Tyne and Wear.
Okay, So we have all the information about Matilda that we need. She is now registered for half-day nursery school in September. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I was wondering what sort of training your nursery school teachers have.
That is a very good question. Each of our teachers has, at a minimum, a 2-year diploma in early childhood education. Many of our senior staff have bachelor's degrees in education in addition to the 2-year diploma. And our departmental head, Miss Janet Roth, has a postgraduate certificate, bachelor's degree and diploma. Do not worry, Miss Johnson, your daughter Matilda is in very good hands.
That makes me feel a lot better. Can you tell me when the first day of school is? And also, will there be an orientation day for new students and parents?
The first day of class is the 5th of September, and yes, we do have an orientation day. It takes place on the 3rd of September from 9 to midday. Parents and children are strongly encouraged to attend.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, students, and as I always say, make sure to check your answers during that half minute. It's very important that you don't miss some easy marks. And we're going to go through the answers together, and we'll talk a little bit of strategy as well. So let's go step by step. Here we go. So number 1, what is the woman's husband's nationality? So where is her husband from? Is he Swiss? That means from Switzerland. Is he Swedish or is he Swazi? A, B, or C. Now these are multiple choice, so make sure you're putting the letters and not the words into the spaces on your answer sheet. So Charlie Sen says B. Alex agrees. Nope, Alex says it's A. Farizelbeck says it's B. Most students are saying it's probably B. He's Swedish. And that is correct. So he is Swedish. The correct answer is B. The woman even says something about his name. Anybody catch that part about the husband's name, why we know that he's Swedish for sure? In part 1, they usually give you the answer a couple of times for each question. Yeah, that's right, Alex. So the spelling of his name, Johnson, is Swedish, and she emphasizes that. She goes, yeah, my husband's name is Swedish, you see. So be patient in part 1 of the listening, because you do get multiple chances for the answers. Okay. Now, for number 2, the question is, how is the child's personal education number normally received? So how do they get the number for their kids' registration? By post, by email, or picked up from the school? A, B, or C? Okay, good. It was A, so it's through the post. Just out of curiosity, anybody catch how many times they give you that answer? So how many mentions do you hear about getting this education number from the post? Is it A, only once, B, twice, or C, 3 or more times? How many times do you hear the answer? A, once, B, twice, 3 or more times? Yeah, exactly. You hear it at least 3 times, okay? So, yeah, it's in the post. I don't remember getting that in the post. Yeah, my husband got it in the post. So there's definitely 3 mentions in there about that. So you definitely need to pick up these kinds of points here where you hear it 3 times over, okay? So post it is. Okay. Now, the next question. And again, you're always listening for the answer with multiple choice. You're not staring at the choices, okay? That can be confusing. So careful about that. Question number 3, choose the correct letter, A, B, or C. Why is the husband out of town? So The woman says, yeah, my husband opened that letter, but now he's out of town and I don't know where it is. Is he away on vacation, work, or family reasons? Yeah, again, the answer here is B. So the first three are B, A, and B. The husband is out of town on work. Okay, good. So for those of you who got that, it's great. Most of the answers for part one, they're very direct. So you actually hear somebody in the audio use the word work. Later on in part three, part four especially, you're going to hear a lot more paraphrasing for multiple choice. You're going to hear the word employment or job. You likely will not hear the word work. So in part one, you can listen for the words that are in the choices, but that strategy will not work for part 2, 3, and 4 because the answers are paraphrased. Okay? So careful with that. Part 1 is much easier that way because they actually say what you read. All right, so here we go. You had to get 3 to get number 4 correct here, again with the letters. So which 3 pieces of information are required to retrieve the child's personal education number? Is it the woman's personal insurance number, the husband's personal insurance number, their national insurance number, and woman's and husband's name? So what do they need here? Diva says A, B, and F. Fahad says C, D, and F. Okay. The correct answers here are C, D, and F. So for those of you who got that, Nashat, very good, you are right. Okay. Now, again, for this type of question, there are a couple of important strategies I'll show you in just a moment. Let's get to number 5. Okay. So, number 5, how is the husband's name spelt? Is it spelled E-R-I-C-K, E-R-I-C, or E-R-I-K? Eric actually has all 3 of these spellings, but the husband is, of course, just one. Which one of these is the correct spelling? Janelle says C, and it is. It's Eric with a K, like this. Of course, she mentioned that he's Swedish, and she also says it's with a K instead. That's the key word here, instead of a C. In English, you'll usually find that Eric is spelt with a C, but of course it depends where the person is from, and in a lot of other countries it's spelt with a K. So the key word that you had to listen for in this case was the word instead. So K instead of a C. If she would have said as well as, it's with a K as well as a C, then it would have been A. Okay, but she didn't say that. She said instead. All right. So before we go on to 6 through 10, just a couple of important points for multiple choice questions. Anybody remember which strategies are important for multiple choice? Those are those students who are regularly in these classes and have seen me talk about multiple choice strategy for the listening section. Anybody remember what you need to follow? So just a couple of points for you. So MCQ in the listening section. Okay, number 1 is, Bhumika says, don't look at the choices, listen for the answer first. So, don't stare at the choices, hoping the answer will be said, but instead, listen for the answer. This is because often the choice will be paraphrased. For example, job instead of work. So you will not hear the exact same words. Okay, that's number one. So you have to be really careful about that. Rimshaw says make some notes, and that's right, Rimshaw, especially for those multiple multi-choice, okay? Another point is change the multiple choice question into a statement. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. Here for number 6, you see what is Matilda's personal education number? Instead of the question, think about the statement. Matilda's personal education number is. You're not going to hear the what question usually. You're going to hear the statement instead. Okay? So change questions into statements in the multiple choice. That's a really important strategy as well. Number 3, it's a very powerful one, is use logic, especially when you feel you missed the answer. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go back to question 4 here, this is in fact the type of multiple choice. I call these ones a multiple choice because you have multiple choices and you have to choose multiple answers, in this case 3 of them, right? So when you look at A, B, C, and D, the only difference is personal versus national. Okay? What do you think is a personal insurance number? So what is that? What would be a personal insurance number? What do you think that is? What does that mean? If I said my personal insurance number is, what do you think I use that for? So it's very different from your national insurance number, obviously. The national insurance number in Canada is called your SIN number or your social insurance number. Okay, the British call it a national insurance number. What is an individual insurance number used for? So what would be or a personal insurance number? Yeah, so Jiwan says, well, it's obviously not for public use. Yeah, so if you can figure that out through logic, you can already figure out that probably the school does not need those two. Okay, so it's not for public use. Most likely, yeah, and you're right. It's not for public use. Lepouche says maybe it's like a pin for an ATM. No, this would be like for injury. Okay. In case of injury or accident, right, that would be your personal insurance number. So if you need medical assistance, for example, that would be, and you have some kind of an insurance provider to cover your medical costs, that would be a personal insurance number. So that's something that's insuring you as an individual that you pay for so that you get that. So obviously that would be really weird to ask for when you're registering your child for school. Okay, now E, we don't need that one. Why don't we need the woman's name? So why not? So why do we not need the woman's name in this case? Okay, Kaur, the video looks good on my side. Hopefully everybody else can see it as well. Okay, I think it might be on your end. Check your device. Okay. Yeah, Divas, that's right. So personal insurance number would be like your life insurance. Exactly, Divas. That would be a personal insurance number. Maksud, very good. Yeah, it was mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Shirojidin. We heard it earlier, okay? So we don't need the woman's name. She gave it already, right? She already gave this. So clearly, we don't need the woman's name because that's how the conversation starts. She says her name, so the administrator has that. She just doesn't have the husband's full name, only the family name, right? So for this question, it comes quite quick after number 3, and it's a little bit tricky to catch all of these. But again, if you use logic, then you can figure these out. Now, in the paper-based exam, when you have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet, you can do that. Please don't start using this kind of logic while the audio is going. That's very tricky. You'd have to be very fast. It's possible, but it'd have to be very, very quick. However, when you have 30 seconds to review your answers, or in the 10-minute time, so in the 30 seconds to review or the 10 minutes to transfer, okay? 30 seconds for the computer-based as well, 10 minutes for the paper-based as an addition, so that makes the paper-based a little bit more gentle. Then you can use this kind of logic, okay? All right? So pay attention to that, absolutely. All right? So use your logic, okay? In fact, this is just kind of a hint. You have to be careful with this, but roughly half of the answers in the reading and listening questions, you can almost figure out just from logic alone without even audio or reading. Now, I don't recommend doing that, but if you're a person who has exceptionally good skills in logic and critical thinking, and when you're doing your practice exams at home, you'll notice that, wow, a lot of these questions you can just answer from common knowledge and from logic, okay? All right, so be really, really careful, pay attention to that. Now, another point that you can use here, of course, is quick notes, right? So national insurance number, okay? So use short form if you're going to do notes. Please don't try to write all of these words. But you can do something like that to help remind you, okay? Yeah, that's one of the big, so I see some students saying, wow, my teacher never goes into that kind of detail. We are not just teachers, but we're also a group of psychologists in our company dealing with education and educational psychology. And that's how we design all of our teaching, is through psychology, through using critical thinking, logic, visualization to really help you boost not only your English skills, but also your communication and your thinking skills together. And that way you can maximize your learning and your scores in a relatively short amount of time, okay? So definitely try out our websites. If you like them, join the full course, okay? All right, let's keep going here a little bit with the later questions. So you had that 30-second, or no, not 30, I think it's 20-second break. To review the next set of questions. And then on we go. So number 6 is, what is Matilda's personal education number? Is it A, B, or C? So here you had to listen to some numbers and then give the right answer. Yeah, Jivan, send me an email and I can help you out, okay? The correct answer was A. Absolutely, good for you. So you had to realize that there's no letter in there. There was no P. It was a 3, not a P. And then, of course, they say T. T as in, anybody catch that? So the speaker says T as in, what was the word that she used to confirm the letter T? Anybody catch that just for fun? Yeah, very good, Nashad. It was Thomas. Thomas. T as in Thomas. Thomas. T as in Thomas. Yeah, very good. Okay, so listen for those. They'll use that. Okay, so Z as in Zulu. Okay, R as in Roger. L as in Lima. It's not a bad idea to learn these kinds of expressions. L as in Lima, Z as in Zulu. Okay. There's actually a kind of a standard set. It has a name. I'm not sure what the name of that is, but there's a naming for that as well. If you go online, you can find that. So L as in Lima, Z as in Zulu, X as in X-ray. Okay, so check for those, all right? Check for those because you can use those. So I know a lot of students find it challenging to spell their names, and when they're talking to people on the phone, a government office or a school, then they're like, Is that a P? Is that a B? Is that a P? So there's a way to do that, and everybody is familiar with that. So if you call them, then you can say P as in post, okay? D as in dog, B as in ball, okay? All right, next question. 7. Where was the child born? A, Newcastle, B, London, or C, Monterey? Again, pay attention to use the letters, not the names, and make sure to use capital letters. So if you're going to write the letter A in your answer sheet, write the letter A like that, not like that, okay? Write it like this. I recommend using capitals. Yeah, very good, Jack. Patel, Pyle. Toad, don't do that. It was A, it was Newcastle, which is, of course, in Tyne and Weir, as they say, in the audio. Very good. All right, let's keep moving along. Nicely done, students. Nicely done. So here we had another of these multiple choice. Number 8, what 2 qualifications do many of the nursery school's senior staff have? 1-year diploma, 2-year diploma, 3-year diploma, master's degree, bachelor's degree, doctorate degree. 2 of them. And the correct answers were 2-year diploma and a bachelor's degree. So it was B and E. This one was fairly easy. In your answer sheet, you just do it like this, B, comma, E. It's for 1 question, so make sure it all goes into box 8 in your paper-based exam. Answer key. Okay. And you do have to pay attention to the questions. She does mention that the principal or the head teacher has a postgraduate degree, which would be a master's or a doctorate. We don't actually know. She doesn't say. But that's not many. That's just 1. Okay? So really pay attention. Sometimes the trick is not in the choices. Sometimes the trick is in the question. Okay, so if you find the choices a little bit confusing, go back to the question, because sometimes you'll realize, oh yeah, it's many, so it can only be these 2, right? Can't be the other ones. So check the answer. Sometimes the trick is in the question, not the choices. Okay, so check the question, the question. All right, very, very important. All right. Here we go with the last set. This is a short answer, or fill in the blanks here. Complete the notes below. Write no more than 2 words and or a number for each. The first day of class. So when does school begin for these little ones at nursery school? You should catch that. You should write an abbreviation. Don't write the full word. 5th of September it is. Now, Mozum, it's only 2 words, okay? So if you actually write 5th of September, you will get this wrong, okay? It's sad, but it's true. IELTS is testing how well you pay attention to all of the information in the exam, not just the audio and not just the answers. This one will be marked wrong because it's 1, 2, 3 words, and it says no more than 2 words. So you have to be very careful. Even though it seems correct, because of the question, it's actually wrong. So the easiest is Sept 5. Usually with September students, it's a 4-letter abbreviation with the T included, okay? They'll take Sept 5, I believe, but definitely I recommend the T. That is the more common abbreviation. Okay, yeah, Maksud is asking that. Will they take Sept? I think they will, Maksud, but I wouldn't chance it. I've seen September abbreviated as Sep in some places, but the standard is usually with the T. So to be on the safe side, Maksud, add the T for September. Okay? All right, and again, pay careful attention here because like I said, IELTS is testing not just your ability to fill in a blank. Okay, it's not that easy. Alech, yes, 5th Sept will work. It's okay, all right? Okay, and then our last question here. Something and children should attend orientation. So who should attend orientation? Children? Yeah, it's a good idea. Who else? Shirojidin says parents for number 10. Parents is correct. So parents, and it has to have the S because children is plural. So parents has to be plural as well. Okay. So parents and children. All right, so some good tips there for you to keep in mind when you're doing your exam to make sure that you're not losing any easy marks. Quick question back at all of you. What was your score from the 10 raw score? So what did you get? How did you do on that part 1? And the reason I ask that is because for those students who really need that 6.5 band or 7 band or more, for part 1, you should be aiming to get 8 or more correct, okay? Part 1 is the easiest, so if you're losing 3, 4, 5 bands or raw scores in part 1, you're going to be in some deep water when it comes to part 2, 3, and 4 for your finished score. So Divas, Karki, work on it, okay? You got to get definitely higher than 6. Okay, it's got to be 8, 9, 10. Kaur 7, it's a bare minimum. Okay, you don't want to be losing too many points here. All right. Okay. So, and for those students who are doing listening for a second or third time, I know some of you are in these classes regularly. By the way, we will be releasing new exams in the next couple months. But if you're doing these again and again, at this point, if you've done this part 1 before, you should be looking to get 9, 10 correct. You shouldn't be making any mistakes on the second run. Okay. All right. So, students, let's get into it. Now we're going to do section 2, or as they call it now, part 2. So they're not going to say section anymore. They're going to say part 2. So as we do part 2, same thing, please do not write your answers into the chat. We'll go through them together after, just like we did now. I'll give you some strategy, give everybody a fair chance. And for those of you who are just joining, make sure that you're trying to use a headset if possible and turn your volume up. If it's quiet, I have max volume on my side with my mic and speaker. So we're going to get right into it without further ado. And again, just do your best, use logic, use strategy. Here we go, back to our website. And of course, this is now coming from CD3 and track 2 for those of you that have our exams. All right.
Now turn to section 2. Take some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Listening section 2. You will hear a recording of a university campus tour. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the interview and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you're here for the university campus tour, you're in the correct place. There are 2 purposes for this tour. For prospective students, you get to see the campus where you may be studying in a few months, and you get to learn some interesting information which may convince you to look favourably on our university. For parents, you get to learn what life is like at this university, so you know where you are sending your kids off to this autumn. Before we start the tour, I'd like to give you some background information. This university was originally opened in 1686, although from 1745 to 1805 it was shut down due to a lack of funding. The university is composed of 23 buildings which were built in one of 3 periods. There were 4 original buildings in 1686, A dozen more buildings were constructed in the period from 1805 to 1815, and the final 7 buildings have been added in the past 10 years. So there is a fascinating mix of 17th century, 19th century, and quite modern architecture. The first building we are going to look at is called the Prescott Building, named after the university's first chancellor, William Chester Prescott. As you can probably tell, this is one of the university's original buildings completed in 1686. The building is actually quite unique in shape. It is approximately 40 metres long, while only 8 metres wide. It also has these interesting circular areas attached to each corner, 4 of them in all. These 4 circular areas each house a large bell. None of the bells work today, however. As we walk in the door, I'd like to point out all of the beautiful Persian carpets on the floor. These carpets were donated to the university by a former student almost 150 years ago. It is very common for former students who have done well in life to give back to the university. Some give money, some give land, some give gifts such as Persian carpets. One former student even gave the university his pub after he died. By the way, that pub, which is located at the intersection of 3rd Street and Pine Avenue, gives students of the university a 30% discount. Now, if that's not a selling point for this university, I don't know what is. On a serious note, it is our outstanding education which makes our university a top competitor on the global front.
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 17 to 20.
Before we go any further, are there any questions? No? Right then. Next we are going to visit the university library. As you see in front of the library, there is a beautiful fountain which shoots water high up in the air. Once again, the funding for the fountain came from a former student, in this case a well-known artist. It was constructed just 15 years ago at the cost of £50,000. As we step into the library, I think what you'll notice at first is the fact there are no books. Indeed, there are no books at all on the entire ground floor. On the 5 upper floors, however, there are over 3 million books. The library's collection has been built over time through private donations, gifts from former students, as well as university purchases. There is also a special collections area where there are original works dating back to the year 1588. Next on our itinerary is a visit to the sporting facilities. Here at the university we have over a dozen different facilities for almost any sport you can imagine, ranging from football and rugby to tennis and squash to archery and cricket. Our rugby team has won the national championship 3 out of the last 5 years. As you'll see on your left is a famous wall where we put pictures of...
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And again, students, use that time to check your answers. We'll go through the answers together one at a time, make sure that we get them all right, and maybe talk a bit of strategy as well. So first we had to fill in this form here. Now this was a campus university tour, and maybe some of you got that when we were reviewing part 1. As you maybe recall, in part 1, I quickly looked at the kind of topics of part 2, 3, and 4 so that I can get an idea of what they're about ahead of time. You might be able to do that in your paper-based exam, and if you can, it's a good strategy. Okay, so here I saw that it's something about a university. So the tour guide gives us some background information and starts by saying when this university opened. For number 11, and Chetan, Omar, Jiwan, Maksud, and many others believe that that date was 1686, and indeed it was, okay? So keep in mind in English for years, we usually do two numbers. So 1686, that's what you had to listen for. So for these years, make sure to know your double digits, okay? For the IELTS, know your double digits, okay? 1474, 1922, okay? Know your double digits. It's very, very important because there's a very good chance that one of your answers in one of the listening parts will definitely be that way, okay? So knowing your double digits. All right, then in this time period, it was shut down, and then it's the tour guide explains when these buildings were built and how many of them. So he says between 1805 and 1815, there were a number of buildings constructed. How many buildings were constructed? For number 12, Wolfing DC says 23, Maksud says 12. In this time period, he actually says a dozen. Okay, now a dozen means 12. So the easiest answer here would be 12 buildings. It's the faster way to write the answer. The number is faster than the word, and of course you don't risk spelling mistakes. So when you hear a dozen, write 12. If you hear half a dozen, we use that often in English as well, then write 6. Anybody knows the expression baker's dozen? It's an interesting expression in English. Baker's dozen. Anybody know how many a baker's dozen is? And of course, it's because we often talk about donuts, for example. Okay, so what is a baker's dozen? Just for fun, let's see if anybody's familiar with this expression in English. Evangeline McDowell, very good. Yeah, a baker's dozen is 13. Why? Because the baker's generous. So the baker says, okay, you get 12 donuts plus one. The baker's friendly, so the baker gives you one more. Okay, so a baker's dozen is 13. Otherwise, a dozen means 12. Okay, that's just for fun. But you can use that. If you go into a bakery and you say, I'd like a baker's dozen, then they'll say, okay, we'll give you 12 in the box and one in your hand. All right? Okay, that's usually because the box only fits 12 donuts or pastries. All right, so in the past something years, 7 buildings were constructed. So this one here, number 13, how many buildings in how many years were 7 buildings constructed? Number 13 is 10. That's right, it was 10 in the past 10 years. And again, the number is easier than the word, so just write 10. Now, you should know that in your writing task 2, you should write words 0 to 10. Okay, in English writing, the standard for essays is usually write words 0 to 10. But in these answer sheets, you can just use the numbers. Okay. All right, number 14. This was a little bit of a diagram identification. The Prescott Building, which was the original building built in 1686, has which layout here? A, B, or C? So what does that building look like? A, B, or C? The correct answer was B, okay? And the reason we know that is because he gives us the dimensions. I think he says 8 feet by 50 or something like that. So you know that it's a very long building. I think he even says it's a long building. And then he says there are these circular shapes in each corner. So there are a couple of different points that the person says, which lets you know that the correct answer is B. When you're looking at these diagram type questions, students, see the differences, okay? So here you see squares and squares. Here you see circles. So you're listening for square or circle. Here, you're listening for rectangle, okay, or a square. Square is when the sides are even, like 5 by 5. Rectangle is when they're uneven length. So, for example, 5 by 8. Okay, so rectangle, rectangle, square. Square, circle, square. Look for those differences. Okay, Prashant says, hey Adrian, that was 40 by 8. Okay, yeah, I think you're right, Prashant. It was 40 by 8, but we get this very long building. I don't know why, but a long, long time ago, in the 1700s, they liked to build these really long buildings for schools. If any of you watched Harry Potter, that main hall is kind of like that as well, where it's really, really long. So schools tended to be these really long, narrow types of buildings. All right, here we go. So question number 15, write no more than 2 words. So again, 2 words and or a number. How many years ago were the Persian carpets donated? How many years ago were they donated by a former student? Yeah, so 150. Okay, 150. You don't need the word years because it's in the question. Okay, and if you write years ago, then that would be wrong. Okay, because it's 3 words. So again, if you write 150 years, that's okay, but just 150 is enough in this case because we have the measure. If you have the measure in the question, you only need the number. You don't have to repeat the measure. It will save you a little bit of time. Okay, so it's 150. All right. Let's keep going here. So for number 16, this was a local pub that was donated to the university by another former student. And what kind of a discount does this pub give? 30, 40, or 3%? A, B, or C? Again, the correct answer is A. Make sure you're using letters, not the numbers. It was 30%. 3 is silly. Logic tells me that would not really be anything to go home and rejoice about. 40 might be a little bit too much. 30 looks good. So logic here can help you as well if you happen to be daydreaming. Hopefully you're not and miss the answer. So 30 would be your best guess as well. Okay, the last one was a complete the summary. Here you had to catch the words. This was getting a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tricky. You have to know the spelling. You have to be quick with your writing. Okay, so here we go. Write no more than 2 words, so 2 words maximum, and or a number. That means you can have a word and a number. So in front of the library, there is a beautiful something. What is in front of the library? Yeah, it's a fountain, and fountain is spelled like this. Fountain, okay, F-O-U-N-T-A-I-N. A fountain, of course, is what shoots water like that, okay? So that would be a fountain shooting the water into the air, right? It's also called a water feature. That's another synonym for a fountain. It's called a water feature. Okay, inside the library, the ground floor has something books. How many books are on the ground floor? Again, this is repeated a couple of times because it's a surprising kind of statement. Yeah, it's no books. No books. Of course, it protects the books from flood or from danger. So the books are all on the upper floors. You can also guess that from the word however. However, the upper floors house over 3 million books. The collection was built by donations, gifts, and university purchases. Additionally, there is a something area, number 19. What was number 19? That was a little bit tricky, looking for that band 9 level student that probably knows what that actually means, maybe visited a library in English. It's a special collections. Now, this is a tricky one because collection is actually countable. If you have multiple collections, then they're called collections. So you can actually count collections. And in this case, it is called a special collections area. Special collection is not enough. You need the S in this case to get it correct. It's a special collections area. So you had to catch that S. Students, really train your ears for that S sound. okay? Especially for some of these tricky ones here, because it matters and you need the S for this one to get it correct, okay? So it's special collections area. All right, with works dating back to 1588. There are many sporting facilities, including the rugby field, which is home to the rugby team, which has won 3 of the past 5 what? Billy says national championship. Billy, so close, but you need that S, okay? Because it's plural. It's 3 of 5. So it's national championships, okay? National championships with the S. Okay, pay really careful attention. Of course, you can count national championships. Okay, they're very much countable. All right. Okay, students, so those are the correct answers for part 2. What did you get out of 20? For those of you who were here for both part 1 and part 2, what was your score from 20? For part 1 and 2, how did you do? The reason I ask that is because for part 1 and 2, you should be looking at, let's say, 16 or more if you want band 6, 7 or higher, 6.57 or higher. So, yeah, for Izobek, 18, that's great. Billy, 18 is good. Jiwan, 18 is good. I got that in the reverse, but yeah. Janil, almost, okay? 15 is not bad. 15, you're kind of okay, all right? Shaikh, 17 is okay. All right, students, so you're aiming for 16 or more in part 2 because part 3 and part 4 will be more difficult. So it's a higher chance of getting more wrong. Rana, so close to a perfect score, almost. Yeah, maybe the special collections got you. All right, students, so tomorrow we're going to finish part 3 and part 4 of this listening test. If you can't wait and you want this exam and all of our other exams, you can get them with all of our HD videos as well. Academic students, aehelp.com. General IELTS students, gieltshelp.com. Use the code R4TYJ today to get that 20% discount from the premium package. And you can get all 6 of our exams. And you can get all of the videos done by me, and a couple other teachers do some videos as well. And tomorrow, more live classes, so more listening. And I believe we will have a task 1 as well for members. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. If it's late in your country, sweet dreams to you. If your day is just starting, then look upward and onward. Much love to all of you. Bye for now from Budapest. I'm Adrian.